Hi there, YouTube. Happy Merchant Monday. Smoking my vintage Bertram in it. Smoking some Commonwealth by Gowith and Hogarth. I'm branching out. This video won't be pipe related. It will actually be about guitars. So all the, guitar people who clicked on it based on the title, sorry, I'll be smoking my pipe. That's just what I do. And judging by the video I've been watching lately, I'm probably the best you have at the moment. Sorry about that. Let me explain. Many of you guitar people, maybe some of you pipe people, people of the YTPC have seen the recent headlines about Gibson. Gibson Guitars is suing Dean Guitars over copyright or trademark infringement. Naturally, there's a host of videos being filmed about this subject by all manner of high-profile guitar YouTubers. Some of them witty, some of them sarcastic, all of them very emotional. I think someone is actually making t-shirts about this, the whole situation, but they're all a wee bit missing the point, and they do not have many facts and a decent analysis of the situation, though. Sorry about that. Don't know why. It's just how the situation is at the moment. So I'll try to step in, although I don't have a full disclaimer. I don't have a law diploma, a US one at least. Have a Russian one. But all these, guitar YouTubers, they begin by saying, well, I'm not a lawyer, so here's my 2 cents. And then they proceed to spew out whatever bullshit they have in mind. So here's the situation. It all began with a video published by Gibson on their YouTube channel, I think a week ago, hosted by a man called Mark Agnesi, who is, as his Twitter says, internet personality and director of brand experience for Gibson Guitars. So he's basically a spokesperson. And it is already dubbed a bully video. I'm too lazy to edit anything, so here's the guy. You all know him. You all love him. He was a host at the channel of Norman's Rare Guitars, and here he is basically talking about the Gibson, its rich heritage, and he's basically threatening everybody who is manufacturing anything resembling a Gibson guitar. Check a look at this face. I don't know why in this particular instance he looks like a pimp to me, or a guy who is thinking to himself, what am I saying and how am I gonna wash this off my internet personality? Never mind. What he basically said is that Gibson possesses a host of trademarks. and they are willing to make use of those trademarks in protecting their legacy, basically suing everyone. He also did some bizarre comment about Gibson guitars being featured in films and TV with their, logos being taped off, and he says it doesn't prevent trademark or copyright claim. I don't think he fully understands what trademark means. Because once you purchase an instrument, you're free to do whatever you like with it. Like feature it in the film. And taping the headstock, the logo of the headstock, is basically preventing, here he goes whistling, basically preventing what is called product placement, and which is basically Gibson paying a company to feature their instrument in the film. But regardless, video caused an uproar in the YouTube community. Gibson removed the video. Of course, everyone saved it. You can probably find it quite easily. And the next big news was the lawsuit. Gibson is suing Armadillo Enterprises, which owns the brands Dean Guitars and Luna Guitars. That report was first shown on guitar.com, and there's also a response from Dean Guitars. And basically that's all that the guitar YouTubers have to say about that. They're quoting these two articles, and that's it. So let's settle something straight. First of all, the nature of the lawsuit is alleging trademark infringement, trademark counterfeiting, unfair competition, and trademark dilution. The most interesting thing here is trademark counterfeiting, which is basically saying not only according to Gibson, not only does Dean Guitars violate their trademarks, but they are also making instruments and trying to pass them off as Gibson Guitars, which is pretty ridiculous if you ask me. So the first problem guitar YouTubers faced were the trademarks themselves. Everyone is trying to sort of make a disclaimer, say, I don't know if they really have a claim or a trademark, and what is the lawsuit based on. And people are not really doing their homework, because United States Patent and Trademark Office has an online database, and it took me, I think, like 5 minutes to find the relevant trademarks, as far as I can understand. For example, it was generated last week, but regardless, doesn't show. Here it is. That's a Les Paul. Les Paul trademark application has been registered with the office. Registration date July 20th, 1993. Let's remember that. Registration has been renewed There's also a similar one for the Flying V, another one for the Explorer shape. Here's the Explorer. I'm sure there's a headstock, the Gibson book headstock as well. And so the Gibson does possess trademarks to the designs that Dean is producing. Strangely enough, the registration date is 90s, 97, end of the 90s. So here's where the Dean statement comes in mind. That's another article on the same website, guitar.com. You'll have to wait. We'll have to wait for my terribly slow iPod to load it. Sorry. By the way, Gibson has an experience with lawsuits, and everyone is presenting this as sort of unprecedented thing, but all these lawsuits regarding intellectual property are like common in the guitar and music instrument manufacturing sphere. It's just that this particular lawsuit was preceded by this video, which is ridiculous. That's why everybody jumped on the subject. So the reply from Dean Guitars, namely from the CEO and President Evan Rubinson. He first of all alleges that some of the retailers and stores, etc., may have received letters from Gibson claiming that the product that they are Dean products they have in stock are violating Gibson's trademarks. Maybe some direct threat, I don't know. But he claims that what he calls an alleged copying of the Flying V Explorer and ES335 guitar shapes is entirely baseless. He claims that Dean is a 43-year-old iconic American-based guitar company and has been continuously offering the V and Z, so basically their take on the Flying V and Gibson Explorer shaped guitars, since at least 1976, for over the past 40 years. These guitars have been widely seen and promoted for decades, yada yada. Many other companies have been using these generic shapes for decades. We believe the alleged Flying V and Explorer shapes are unprotectable, and Gibson's trademark registrations should be invalidated. This is the point that everyone is missing. Amongst all this, emotional stuff, people are missing this, the nature of the dispute. So Dean Guitars are basically, they are opposing Gibson's claims based on the fact that the shapes, the silhouettes, the outlines of the guitar bodies are generic. and that the trademark registrations are thus invalid. Which is interesting if we take into account the fact that they have been producing their shapes since the 70s, and the trademarks I showed you poorly, as I did, sorry about that, were registered in the 90s. I don't know really if it was an initial registration date or some renewal date. I don't know. But like I said, Gibson had both positive and negative experiences with protecting their intellectual property. First of all, there was the famous lawsuit against Ibanez, when in the 70s Gibson's own production was on the decline and Japanese manufacturers were making copies of their guitars with correct specs, which were basically better than the American originals. As far as I know, I don't know this for sure, but as far as I know, this particular lawsuit was settled out of court. Ibanez ceased their production, shifted it, and it also gave birth to the phenomenon of lawsuit guitars. Japanese guitars of great quality that command quite high prices on the used guitar market. Gibson also had a lawsuit against PRS guitars, Paul Reed Smith guitars, and their single cut shape. Let me just show you some generic image. Here are the two. Gibson, PRS. Gibson won this particular lawsuit. PRS appealed and won in the Court of Appeal. So that's the negative experience. PRS are still producing their single cut shape, and Gibson owes nothing. Many people are also arguing about what took Gibson so long, and I've heard an interesting conspiracy theory about this. My personal take on that is that it's just the new CEO, the new management of the company, because Gibson is recovering from bankruptcy. So the estimated sum is like 14 million bucks, which is quite a hefty sum, if you ask me. But the conspiracy theory is that Gibson will also request a portion of all the profits that Dean Guitars made selling Gibson-shaped instruments, which will be a hefty sum. I don't believe that's possible, nevertheless. But this revocation of trademarks resembles a rather high-profile case of the 2009, I believe. And as far as I know, everyone seems to be missing that. What are you doing, people? It was an application for a trademark by Fender Musical Instruments Corporation. I don't know why, but they do not, at the time, did not possess trademark to their iconic shapes, the Stratocaster, the Telecaster, and the Precision Bass. So they applied to have them registered officially. And there was a host of companies and individuals opposing that. I have before me, again, took me like half an hour to Google this shit. I have basically the resolution on the case. It's 75 pages long, so I won't bore you with that. But just the title itself, it's like a poem. Really, it's like who is who in the guitar business. So just to name a few names that sound familiar to me. It's Fender Musical Instruments Corporation against Stuart Spector Designs, Watermark Guitars, guitar products, Schecter Guitar Research Incorporated, Sadowski Guitars Limited, the ESP Guitar Company, Lakeland Musical Instruments, Michael Tobias, Levinson Music Products, PV Electronic Corporation. So it's basically Fender against everyone in the guitar business. And I glanced through this document, which is the most part of it is the testimonies given by the representative of said companies. So the representatives of the Trademark Trial and Appeal Board were basically asking them, do you produce strats, tallies, and precision basses? And everyone, in the most polite and orderly way, replied, of course we do. Everyone's doing that. They also presented the board with catalogs and photos from, I think, from the NAMM show, etc., showing, the wide range of strats, tallies, and P basses from different manufacturers. The whole litigation lasted for 5 years. It included 20,000 pages of evidence demonstrating companies selling their guitars, and the resolution read, the applicant, Fender, has not established acquired distinctiveness such as these two-dimensional outlines of guitar bodies standing alone serve to indicate source. So, translating from legal into simple English, the board's reply was, sorry Fender, everyone is doing that. You cannot trademark wood, something that everyone is producing. So if some of you are thinking that Fender owns a Strat, no, it doesn't. And I believe this is exactly what Dean Guitars is referencing in their statement. The shape is generic, thus it cannot be trademarked and protected. I don't know how Gibson obtained their trademarks. Maybe it was long ago, maybe it was in the 90s and no one was paying attention. But technically there's nothing stopping Dean Guitars from gathering all the, like-minded luthiers and companies who are producing Explorers or Flying V's or similar shapes, because the threat that Gibson channeled through Mr. Agnesi was pretty broad, Everyone beware. So everyone can basically gang up on Gibson and say, sorry, we're all producing it. Some of us starting back in the 70s. And so I don't know what will be the result. So to sum it up, does Gibson have trademarks? Yes, it does. What are the plans of Dean Guitars? As far as I understand, they will try to claim that the shapes are generic and the trademarks should not apply and should be revoked. And I think the majority of the guitar community on YouTube is missing that, amongst all this, drama and sarcastic videos. Here are the facts. I'm sure I'm pronouncing half the, half of the terms wrong, and someone with a decent legal education like Law and Smoke, Professor Walker, will have something to say about what I've just said. But here's a brief gist of what's actually happening, behind all the drama. Yeah. So we'll just have to wait and see. How it all plays out. And all the people claiming that they thought that Gibson are all right now, that they're not the greedy, money-grabbing corporation anymore. Where did you get this idea from, really? It's all about making money, money. These companies are worth millions, so there's no place for sentimentality in here. Especially if you are recovering from bankruptcy, you want to scrape as much as you can from everyone. But on the other hand, legal proceedings are costly. So I'm not exactly sure that Gibson Guitars will that their position is that solid, really, because with if Dean Guitars, if they put their mind to it and acquire, ally themselves with other manufacturers, that can drag on for a couple of years, like the Fender case, 5 years. Five years of legal costs, plus an outcome that may or may not be, to the Gibsons' liking. Will $14 million cover it? I don't know. So, if anyone is still watching this, what are your opinions on the subject? Was it at least somewhat informative? Why didn't anybody else do that? Were they simply too busy counting their likes and subscribers? It's a bummer, really, because I haven't seen a decent analysis of this situation yet. Probably mine is the best one, chaotic as it may be, not edited, raw, etc. And the majority of the guitar community will miss it. I normally do not ask for this, but if you have someone interested in the subject, a guitar player, someone who is interested basically in this music business, probably you can direct them to this video. I'll put the links to all the documents in the bucket list below, so everyone can have a read. It's fascinating read. The testimonies given in the Fender case are brilliant. If you want to learn sarcasm, yeah. 75 pages of sarcastic comments on the Fender claims. Anyways, I'm wrapping this up. Half an hour. Sorry if it wasn't very consistent. Sorry about the lack of editing, and I hope it was somewhat interesting. Maybe, I don't know. Links will be in the bucket below. I wish you all people a nice week. And I'll be back with another one of my videos. Pipe related, guitar related, who cares really? My channel, I do what I want. See you people. Goodbye.